Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Brittnee. Today I'm going to teach you how to mold and unmold a chocolate bar. I'm going to be making the fancy version of a Cadbury fruit and nut bar using milk chocolate, slivered almonds, and dried cranberries. So to get started, let's go over the supplies that you'll need, and don't forget I always link them down in the description box. All right, so you are going to need a bar chocolate mold. This is what mine looks like, the one I'll be using today. It's like broken up stone kind of look. I will link it down below, the exact one. And then, oops. And then you'll want a small tray to use to help you unmold your chocolates. You will of course need a chocolate scraper. I also like to have this on hand to help clean this one off. Then you will want some edible gold powder. If you want to learn more about what gold powder to use and how do you know if it's edible or just non-toxic, check out this video in the card above. I'm using the brand PCB Creation. And then you will need some lemon extract to help mix your paint with the edible gold powder. And then something to mix it in. I like to use these little plastic pallets. Along with your paint supplies, you will need a paintbrush. You can use a large one, a medium size, or a smaller one. We're going to flick the gold paint into the mold, so it's about preference. Use whichever size you'd like. I might test them all just to see which one I like better, because there's 3 slots in the mold. Then you will want some cotton balls just to make sure your mold is nice and shiny. 1 piece of parchment paper, a blow dryer. This will help maintain your chocolate temperature as you're working with it. A microwave safe bowl to use to temper your chocolate. This one is plastic, but you can also use polypropylene that's made for tempering chocolate. I will link a couple options down below as well. But just a reminder, you do not want to use glass because glass heats up very quickly and also holds in the heat and can burn your chocolate. And of course, you are going to need some chocolate. I'm using Calibut milk couverture chocolate today. And for my filling, I'm going to be using slivered almonds and dried cranberries. So the first thing I'm going to do is chop up my slivered almonds into smaller pieces. Okay, I didn't chop this half because I decided that was this is probably enough because I kind of poured a lot. So I'm just gonna make sure these are chopped nice and fine because the molds are pretty shallow because they're made for bars, so there's not a ton of space in there. So I don't want the pieces to be too big. And I'm not following a recipe. I'm just going to add in the fillings to the chocolate and I'm just going to eyeball it. So let's say a handful, a handful of chopped almonds. Okay, and then I'll chop up the dried cranberries. I'll start with 2 little boxes. If you like raisins better, you can use raisins. You don't have to use cranberries. And you can use any type of nut that you like too. Or you could just do almond or just do fruit. The technique will be the same. Okay, I'm going to call that good. Now I'm going to add, I'll probably do equal parts. You don't have to. You can do whatever ratio you prefer between the two. If you like more nuts, do more nuts. If you like more fruit, do more fruit. Okay, so I've got my mixed bowl of filling here, and I'll just set this aside for now and clean up this mess. All right, so next we're going to prepare the mold. I'm going to put it on top of a piece of parchment paper to at least help me keep the counter somewhat clean. And before I do the paint, Okay, because my mold is already clean, it doesn't have any leftover chocolate in it from before, I'm just going to use a cotton ball just to make sure the surface is shiny and there's no dust or anything on it. If your chocolate mold isn't clean, you can just clean it with hot water and mild soap, and then when you dry it, you want to either blow the water out or dry it with a clean cloth so that there's no water spots left, because we want the surface of the chocolate to be shiny. So I'm just running across the mold with the cotton. Once you're satisfied with that, you're going to mix your gold paint. So I'm just going to scoop some powder. I'm going to use the center because it's the biggest. And then, and I don't measure this either, I just add a bit of lemon extract. So the reason I use lemon extract is because it's high in alcohol. And once I make the paint and use the paint, then the liquid will evaporate and leave just the gold. And you can experiment with how thick or thin you like this, just however you prefer working with it. So you're just going to mix it until all the clumps are gone. And then I'll start with this brush to flick the first mold and we'll see how it turns out. I'm going to hold my finger here and just tap it. Actually, you want to go on the, yeah, that works. I always flick it the wrong way. Do whatever you gotta do to get it to the mold. Actually, this is working better. So I'm just holding the brush above and I'm giving it a little flick. Okay, that's the smallest brush that I'm using. I'll try out this medium size. It's looking a little thicker, so I'm just gonna dot a little more lemon. I also like the lemon because it smells good. You can use vodka if you have that. Ooh, this is a lot. Okay, ready? Ah! It's like flinging back at me. This is a mess. Oh, I want it to be thicker. It looks thin, like it's really running. Okay. I mean, I think I'm already liking this one. We'll see. Let's try the big pastry brush. I'm gonna refresh my paint though, so we have lots of nice paint on it before we flick. Okay. It's nice and fluid. I'm going to scoot this forward and do this last one. And I'm just going to swing the brush. This one makes the most mess. Okay. Bigger area, less area, more spots, essentially. Kind of like this spotted one. We'll see how they turn out when they're unmolded. Oh, and this edible gold paint is nice because it comes off the countertop with just a hot water on a rag, so it's easy to clean up. So I'm going to set this aside until later and clean up the counter. All right, next I'm going to temper my milk chocolate. If you don't know how to do that yet, you can check out my video linked in the card above. In that video, I teach you an easy way of tempering chocolate in the microwave, which is what I'm going to do today. And essentially what I'm going to do is heat my portion of chocolate for 30 seconds at a time until half of it's melted. Once half of it's melted, I'm going to stir it until all of it's melted, and then I will do the temper test to make sure it's tempered properly before putting it into the mold. All right, my chocolate is all tempered. I have done the temper test on this little spatula and it looks good. So before I put the chocolate in the mold, actually let me explain to you quickly what we're going to do. Because we don't want the nuts and the fruit to fall in and destroy our little decoration, I'm going to mold the chocolate first and dump it out. Then I will add the filling to the chocolate and we'll put that in almost like a molded chocolate, even though it's a solid bar. So just so the chocolate doesn't get shocked when I'm adding it to the mold, I'm turning the blow dryer on heat, but I'm going to do it low so that I don't ruin the gold. Okay, so I've warmed that up just a little bit. Now I'm using a 1/2 cup to fill each cavity just to keep things clean. I can help that spread. Just a little bit. Okay, now I'm going to tap the mold to get rid of all the air bubbles. And now this is where I've got my parchment paper underneath me. I'm going to hold, there's like a little edge right here. You can place your finger and your thumb on the end. And I'm going to tip the whole mold over and tap it. So all the extra chocolate flows out. And this chocolate that's falling out of here, you can reuse. You can just let it set up at room temperature and use it on your next project. I'm going to scrape the mold and check to see how thick. It looks a little thick, so I'm going to just tap a little harder. Scrape and check again. Looks pretty good. It's a little thin on the corners, so I'm going to stop right there. And set it off to the side. I'm just going to set it up on its side so the airflow is around it, getting cool. Actually, I'm going to recycle this to make sure we have enough for our filling. So, I'm going to take another bowl here. Take this chocolate while it's still fluid and squish it into the bowl. Okay. Get our extra chocolate off of here. And because I'm eyeballing this and not using a recipe, I'm just going to hopefully overshoot it. So I'm just going to eyeball how much chocolate I think I'll need to fill the rest of that mold, which is probably not that much because this is kind of a lot. Okay, then I need to take the filling and making sure both are still warm. I'm just going to do a little heat into both. The reason I'm adding heat is we don't want our chocolate setting up too fast before we can get it into the mold and nice and smooth and flat. So I haven't added all of the nuts and fruit. I don't want this middle to be too thick, so I'm kind of just making it by eye. And that looks like it has a good amount of pieces in it, so I'll stop there. Okay. Now, we are not going to be scraping this again, but it looks like this wasn't super clean, so I'm actually going to scrape it before I fill it, going this way horizontally to make sure those edges are nice and clean. Okay. They look a lot better now. So yeah, make sure you check your edges so that you'll have no problem pulling them out. I want this to set up just a tiny bit more so that when I fill it with this filling, it doesn't knock the chocolate we've already put in. So I'm just, and it's pretty warm in my house right now, like 73. So I'm going to put it in the fridge for just a second. Now, while the mold is in the fridge, setting up just a little bit more, I'm going to keep this nice and fluid by just adding a bit more heat with the blow dryer. Give it a stir to distribute the heat. And it's been about 2 minutes almost in the fridge, so I'm going to check the mold. And it is not quite ready, so I'm just going to wait a couple more minutes. I turned off the AC while I was filming so that it wasn't noisy in here. It's like really hot in here, so that makes it hard to work with chocolate, but that's what the fridge is for. Yeah, you really want like the temperature of your room, like no warmer than 71 degrees to make sure your chocolate isn't staying warm and that it actually has a chance to cool down and set up. While I'm still waiting, I'm going to take our other leftover chocolate, just pour it on a piece of parchment paper so that before it sets up so that I can reuse it again. And you can just leave this out at room temperature to set up and break it up into pieces to use. So you can see our mold has become matte, the chocolate inside. So it's set up just enough to hold its shape, but it's not like fully set up yet. I'm going to do a little bit more heat in here to make sure it's fluid, and one pass over this just so the top layer is fluid and will connect with the chocolate we're adding, okay? Just till it has a slight shine. And now I'm going to give this a stir. And I'm using a spoon to add chocolate into here, to the mold. I want to try the best I can to distribute it across without adding too much. Now let's give it a test. I'm going to tap it flat. And that was almost just about right. But we're missing a tiny bit in that corner. And it's a little overfilled over here. So I'm going to help it and then tap again. Okay, it is a little overfilled still, so really I shouldn't have added as much. See, it can get tricky with the filling. Okay, let's move on to the next one. I'm gonna go with less this time and then add as we need it. The corners are the hardest part. Okay, let's see where we're at. Okay, looks good, but need to just move that a tiny bit and move on to the last one. And tap. Okay, because I overfilled the first one, I'm just going to scrape some extra off. And I'm making a mess. I just don't want it to be overfilled. So then I'm going to scrape the edges clean and tap it again. Okay. Just make sure the edges are all clean so they don't get stuck in the mold. Okay. Now, I'm going to put them straight in the fridge, and it'll probably take about 20 minutes for these to completely set up. Okay. Now, one more thing real quick while those set up. You can reuse all your filled chocolate as well. So I'm just going to scrape that onto my same piece of parchment paper. I made extra so that I didn't run out, but I have a lot left over. So I can just spread this here in a thin layer and break it up and eat it as a snack, or I could fill another mold with it, but I'm just going to call it a day and save it and feed it to someone. If you want to speed up your leftovers cooling, of course you can just pop them in the fridge as well. Okay. All right, so I actually left them in the fridge for 25 minutes to give them a little extra time since my apartment is so warm. So I've got my tray and I'm just going to flip them over. And if they don't come right out, you can give the mold a little turn like this, torque it like an ice mold. And here they are. They look pretty cool. And those are the finished fruit and nut bars. I hope that you enjoyed the video and that you learned something new. If you did, please let me know by giving the video a like. If you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, today's the day. If you'd like to see more videos all about chocolate, check out my chocolate playlist right here. And thanks so much for watching today. I'll see you soon. Bye.